So the question I want to ask you is a question about Rabbi Akiva, and this is how we started yesterday a little bit talking about. And if you haven't yet, if you heard the class before, so apparently either if you're still here, you haven't gotten there yet, in which case I can ask the question again. And the question is, have you heard of Rabbi Akiva? You heard the name Akiva? Heard of Rabbi Akiva, Daniel? Rabbi Akiva, where are you from? Oh, right, we talked about that. And you were sitting in the back seat and you speak a little Spanish. Okay, so there's somebody named Akiva. There is somebody, una vez hubo un hombre que se llamaba Akiva. See? What's that?
He's long dead.
Right, but I said una vez, once upon a time. There was a man by the name of Akiva. Oh yeah, Hashem, long dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, he died a couple thousand years ago. But he's not dead, my friend. He's alive. I'm not pulling an Elvis move on you. I'm going to say, okay, let's just jump into it. So Akiva, you heard of Akiva?
Yeah.
Tell me about him.
I don't know very much.
What do you know?
He was a rabbi.
Good. That was good. That was excellent. I see you've been in yeshiva for many years now. So Akiva was a fellow, if I could start by saying that. He was a man. And he was a man who he was Jewish, but he wasn't really into Torah. Not exactly his thing. You understand? Torah was not exactly his thing. Now he went on, if we jump to the end of the story, well, the very end, he ended up dying by having his flesh combed off his body with a hot iron. But let's not go that far. Let's go before that, and that's Rabbi Akiva becomes one of the greatest rabbis that ever lived. One of the greatest rabbis that he gets the stempel, I don't know how to say that in English, the stamp of approval, even from, anyone? Moshe Rabbeinu himself. You heard of Moses, right? Heard of Moshe? You know who that was, right? Moshe, long dead. Moshe Rabbeinu, he's alive. Moshe Rabbeinu, the Medrash tells us a fascinating story. It says that the Lord takes Moshe Rabbeinu, starring as Michael J. Fox, in Back to the Future. This is the first Back to the Future ever. And that is Hashem took Moshe, God, the Lord, praise be his name, took Moshe, and he sent him into the future to sit in a class of Rabbi Akiva. You heard this, Medrash? You never heard this before? You heard this? Really? So it could be I'm making it up. Shoot, no one heard this. You heard this? Okay, good. So I'm not. So we both made it up then. So what happens? They send him into a class. You know the Medrash? He says to a class of Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva was darshaning. He was expounding, elaborating, and elucidating on Torah concepts. But not just the classic Torah concepts you go, but he was actually elaborating and elucidating on what are called tagin. I don't know what that means, tagin. In the Torah, we have words, right? There are words in the Torah. And not only do we have words, the words are made up of letters. I know, that's crazy. But there are some letters that have on top of the letters, coming off the top of the letters, tagin, which are called crowns. What letters? Give me the letter. Give me a... Shin? Shin? On which one? The third one? The last one? You better be right. Here we go. Zion? Okay, let's go with Zion. That'll work out better because I can't mess that one up, right? All right, so the letter Zion, for example. Okay, so let's say this is the letter Zion. We don't have to let's say because it is. Now, there are some letters, like the letter Zion, that have these little lines coming off the top. I did that right? Is that accurate? They have these lines coming off the top of them. Now, it would be impressive if somebody is expounding on words of Torah in its own right. The Torah is pretty deep. Every word means something. But not only every word, every letter means something, right? And we go and we expound. If you learn some Gemaras, you find that throughout the Talmud, they'll expound on the fact that there's an extra letter. We learn a lot of different laws. Rabbi Akiva wasn't expounding on the words of the letters. He was expounding on the lines on top of the letters. Moshe Rabbeinu is sitting in on the shiur, and he's like, you know that feeling? Has anyone ever took calculus before? Anyone ever heard of calculus? Okay, so I guess we are all on the same page here, right? Okay, right, very educated people that are familiar that there's something called calculus. Okay. Has anyone here ever walked into a class late? Let's not say calculus. Any class, any topic. You walk in late and you're a little bit lost. Yeah, you're more than a little bit. You're like, what is going on here? Yeah? Moshe Rabbeinu was sitting in the back row and he's like, a question, right? He had no idea what was flying. And he turns to God and he's like, why are you making me the leader of the Jewish people? Get this guy. Look at this Rabbi Akiva. This guy is the man. Excuse me, don't get confused with other religions when we say the man. It's not, because this is the man. Like, make him. Why are we making him the man, right? So God's like, no, you're the man. You're the man. Moshe Rabbeinu gives Rabbi Akiva the shtempel. He's the man. How many people get called the man from Moshe Rabbeinu? That's pretty impressive, right? Okay, so Rabbi Akiva, he went on to become a great, great sage, but what were his beginnings? How did he start? He starts as a shepherd. He's a shepherd for someone by the name of Kalba Savua. Who's Kalba Savua? It's actually a nickname. Kalba Savua literally means, anyone know? It's Aramaic. I'll make it easier. Kelev, Savua, Savea. V'chalta v'savata uberachta. You know that word?
Satiated.
What? Satiated, right? Satiated. Right? Person ate, they were satiated, and then they blessed. V'savata means, the blessing when we say in the Torah, v'chalta v'savata berachta, you ate, you were satiated, and you blessed. That's what we learn Birchas Hamazon from, right? We learn the grace after meals from. So the word kalba savua means the one who satiates dogs. He was loaded off his mind. The guy was a he had like hundreds of billions of kapuchknis. I don't know what the currency was then. But anyway, he had a lot of money. And he employed a lot of people. And when a lot of poor people would come to him because they were starving, they would come like hungry dogs and he would satiate them, right? And he would feed them. He had a daughter. His daughter's name was, what's it? Rachel. Rachel was once walking outside and she saw this fellow named Akiva. Akiva was a shepherd. He was a Jew. How old was he at the time? 40 years old. 40 years old. And the man did not learn a word of Torah. Didn't even know the Aleph base. Didn't know the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet. You get that? 40 years old. Are you 40 yet? 40 years old. He didn't know the Aleph base. Yet he went on to become one of the greatest sages that ever lived. That Moshe Rabbeinu himself said, you're the man? What's going on? How did you get to that? What's the in-between story? So actually, Rachel very much encouraged him, said, like, you can be big, you can be great. Now, why would she want him? He was this lowly shepherd, but she saw he had a lot of good midos, a lot of good character traits. Although his feeling towards Torah, his connection to Yiddishkeit was not so strong, as we mentioned yesterday. He hated Talmidei Chachamim, he hated great sages so much. You know how much he hated them? He hated them so much he wanted to bite them. And we said yesterday, what type of bite? Donkey. The bite of a donkey. Why do you hate them so much? Why do you hate them so much?
Threatened by their intelligence.
Interesting. Threatened by their intelligence. Could be. Interesting answer. Anyone else?
You grew up going to religious schools?
That's a better answer. You have to grow up religious to know what that means. Okay, good. I mean, chas v'shalom, how dare you say such things? Right, he grew up going to religious schools. Why else? Any other answers? Why do you hate them? I don't get what I said. Talmidei Chachamim are great sages, scholars. The big rabbis. He hated them so much he wanted to bite them, the bite of a burro, the bite of a donkey. I don't know if the greatest of shepherds, the greatest of the Jewish people were shepherds. No one disses on a shepherd. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu was a shepherd. David HaMelech was a shepherd. Akiva was well, we're talking about him. So these people, great people were shepherds. Why did he hate great sages? Oh, I'm going to share with you something so powerful. And if you grew up religious, you'll fight it, but you'll know it's true. If you didn't grow up religious, so then, okay, you'll hear it maybe. That depends on your background. Here we go. We have a parsha in the Torah. The parsha is called Parses Bechukosai. If you're Israeli or Sfaradi, or you enjoy Ben Yehuda's Hebrew, then you'll say Bechukotai. In Parshas Bechukotai, it starts by saying the following. One of the portions of the Torah, it says, Im Bechukosai Teilechu. If you walk in my ways. We never spoke about this? Im Bechukosai Teilechu. If you walk in my ways. It then goes off all the good things that will happen. However, V'mechukosai lo selechu. V'mechukosai timasu. But if you don't walk in my ways, says the Lord, and if you're disgusted by my ways, then it goes on to negative things that will happen. Has anyone here ever been on a diet before? Yeah? Okay, you've been on a diet. Now, when you're on a diet and you break it, you go out and let's say you're on a diet with a bunch of people. Has anyone ever done that before? No? No one's ever done it with people? You've done it before? Anyone? I've done it before. I did a diet with a bunch of people. You put anyone, sometimes a bunch of years ago here in Aish, about 7 years ago, they're like, you have to put in $500 to join this diet. And the one who lost the most weight, percentage to body, because it's not fair, right? Took there was like 10 people in it. It was like, we're talking $5,000. I didn't join, thank God, because I totally would have lost. But when you join with other people, so I wanted to tell me, how do you feel if, let's say, even if you've never done this, we're going to still play this game. You're on a diet, and you're at a wedding. And at the wedding, there's all this food and all this stuff going on there. And they have like this big table, the sweet table. But the sweet's not just sweets. It has a bunch of things. It has meats there, there's sweets there, there's like salads and whatever, all this different stuff going on. And you walk by the salad, of course, and you're taking salad and more salad, okay? Now, as you walk by the cake area, it's not your fault. You hear a little whisper, psst. You look over, and the chocolate cake's talking to you. You've had this before. And he's like, come on. You know you want it. And you're like, we've spoken about this. Not here, not now. And it goes, just one bite. You're like, fine. And you go out and you take a piece of cake. And as you're eating the cake, the friend of yours who's doing the diet with you walks by with a plate of lettuce. How do you feel about that person?
Yeah.
Oh, now we're talking.
Do you want to be him?
Someone's done this before. Ooh, now we're getting somewhere. Ooh, now we're getting somewhere. Everyone hear what she just said? How do you feel about somebody who's doing the right thing when you're doing the wrong thing and you know you're doing the wrong thing? How do you feel about that person? Can you hear what's going on here? Does this make sense to you? Speak it out. You could disagree. I didn't say anything yet.
I wouldn't necessarily hate him.
How would you feel about a person?
Envy him.
Jealous.
I wouldn't hate him.
What does envy mean?
I wish I'd be like him. I'd have the courage not to eat the cake and eat the lettuce.
What's that?
I wish I'd have the courage to be like him and eat the lettuce and not the
How does it make you feel as an individual? Let's put aside that person. Are you from England?
Yeah.
Oh, forget it. We're not going to get an answer out of you. All right, so now, everyone else who are actually going to give me their emotions. Yeah.
You hate yourself. You don't really hate him. You just don't like the way. It just makes you hate yourself. So you kind of just.
In other words, if you're doing the wrong thing and you're just not thinking about the fact that you're doing the wrong thing, then you're more able to live with yourself that you're doing the wrong thing because I'm not really conscious of the fact that I'm doing the wrong thing. You could know you're doing the wrong thing, you're just not thinking about it. Does that make sense? Everybody hear that idea? When we do the wrong thing, there are times we do it, we feel bad. There are other times we do it when we've blocked it out of our consciousness, so therefore we're going to do bad. And I'm not really worrying about it. I'm not thinking it's out of my mind, right? But what happens all of a sudden when you see someone who's doing the right thing? Now it comes into your realm of consciousness that you're doing the wrong thing. Does anyone get what I'm saying, or am I alone here? I don't mind being alone. I've been alone before. The awkwardness I enjoy. I'm good with this, yeah? But in other words, I don't have to get everyone. I'm okay. I have enough self-esteem. I just want to know that we're on the same page here somewhat. If you see someone who's doing the right thing and you're doing the wrong thing, how do you feel about it? I'll give you an example. Let me give you an example. I live in a neighborhood called French Hill. Anybody heard of that neighborhood? Givat Sarfatit. If you want to be more specific, I live in a place called Samer Tabira. If you're watching this at home, don't come get me. So in any event, I live in this neighborhood. Now, one may think by looking at me, one might judge by looking at me that I'm Jewish. Perhaps I look Jewish. One might even judge that not only Jewish, you might actually think that I'm religious. Is that right? You might think I'm observant. You might be actually thinking that perhaps that I'm involved with Torah, right? You might think that I'm someone who observed the commandments of the... would you think such a thing by looking at me? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Now, where would you think I would live looking like I look?
Religious area.
In a religious area? at least predominantly religious. Does that make sense? Is that what you would think? Is that how you would judge me? You don't even know me, right? Since that you judge me? Well, I live, like I mentioned, in French Hill. Now, French Hill, there's a couple different areas. When I said I live in a place called Samer Tabiran, on my block that I live on, there is one other, what we would probably categorize, what would you categorize me as? Let's say Dati Leumi, Haredi. Maybe you don't know the terms. Have you heard of such things before? Do I look Dati Leumi to you, right? Now we're talking. Modern Orthodox, yeah? Yeah, what would you categorize me as? Modern Orthodox, yeah? Anyone else? They're probably messing around here, right? Probably because you know me, so you know I'm Orthodox. But if you take a look and you see, what do you look? You look Haredi. I put on a good front at least, yeah? Ultra Orthodox, yeah? Okay, not yet. I still have minis, yeah? But okay, almost. Yeah, okay. Yom Tov is the real deal. So we have is that I am Haredi, right-wing, fanatic, black yarmulke Jew. Is that right? That's what you think. Now, where do I live? On my block, there is one other Haredi. There are one. I might be blanking. If there's more, I can only think right now of one Dati Leumi. And the rest is a mixture between secular and Arab. That's where I live. Now you may ask, why in the world do I live there?
Cheap.
And you already know the answer. Now, moving along. Oh my gosh. Is it that obvious? Do I wear it on my sleeve? Okay. When I was walking through this neighborhood to try to find a place to buy, I'm looking around to buy an apartment, rent an apartment, walking around, knocking on doors. The feeling of hatred that people gave to me was like, I'm just an American guy. Like, what's going on? It was shocking. People look at me and they right away have this look, what's the problem? You don't even know who I am. I never said a word to you. What are you bothered by? Okay, so now, there's a lot of different ways we can answer this. For those who are that type of person, which I don't think any of you in this room are, none of you are that person, because everyone here is Anglo, right? Everyone here is Israeli? No one here is Israeli, right? You were born here? Really? Where?
Jerusalem?
Matomered, but religious?
No, but I'm not like that. Matomered, I'm not like that.
Oh, you're not
I
Matomered.
prefer English.
What's that?
I prefer English. I'm like American Israeli.
American Israeli, Dati Leumi upbringing,
No,
secular?
sorry.
Religious. Okay, so then good. So then you also won't understand, but you'll understand the concept what I'm talking about. But you understand that you're not that person. You're not the secular person coming against me who has that hatred. Why do they hate? Oh, because of political and a lot of different things you could say. But ultimately, you want to know why they hate, and they'll never agree to this until they agree to it. Is because you can't live with the fact that I'm next to you doing something which is correct when you're doing something incorrect. You can't handle it. Even though I'll never say a word to you, this is not okay what I'm going to do now. This is really bad, and I shouldn't do it. It's being recorded. I shouldn't do this. Hitler, Yamach Shemo, hated Jews. You familiar with such a thing? Okay, some of you are a little bit shocked. Let's start over. There was someone named Adolf Hitler. You familiar? Have you heard the name before? Yeah? Yamach Shemo, and Adolf Hitler. He was not a big fan of the Jews. He hated them so much, he's quoted as saying, even if there would be one Jew alive anywhere in the world, that would be what's his words he uses, the petri dish, which would then regenerate. And he goes on to explain how much he wants to rid of everyone in the world. He hates everything that we stood for. Jews have brought two terrible things upon humankind. Circumcision on the body and conscience of the soul. Can't live with such a thing. I don't want that. Therefore, I would like to rid of that. Says Hitler himself, it is true. We are barbaric. It is an honorable title. I free humanity of the soul. Read his writing. It's crazy. What's the problem? Live and let live. I can get it if I'm bothering you. If I'm sitting next to you, I'm saying, Shabbos, right? I get it. Yeah, as you drive by on a Tuesday, Shabbos, I can get that would bother you. There was one, my neighbor, who's a very sweet lady, not religious woman. When I was walking and looking for houses, and I ended up on my block, so I said to this woman, I said, do you know anyone selling a house? So she looked at me, and I didn't feel judged at all. It was very interesting. And she says, oh yeah, this guy, my neighbor, is looking to sell his house. Great, okay, thank you so much. And okay, afterwards she says, you're not going to tell me not to drive on Shabbos, are you? I was like, not at first. Yeah, so I said, no, we can do whatever the heck you want. It's your hell, not mine. Anyway, so, no, I didn't say that. I'm just kidding. I didn't say do what you want. I said, don't do it. No, I said, do whatever you want. You do whatever. No, I'm not saying anything. And I haven't said anything. Maybe I should say something, but I haven't said anything. Okay, she, interestingly, didn't. Why? Because this is a woman who's a very, I mean this in a positive way, although it may come out, like, a very simple woman. In other words, what I mean by that is, like, she's not coming to fight or to political or whatever. She's a woman who's living her life. You understand? Like, she doesn't nish the hair, right? She doesn't necessarily even know that what she's doing is wrong. She's not holding in certain areas to know. Who are the ones that hate Judaism the most? Who are the ones who are the biggest anti-Semites that are Jews? The ones who grew up religious. The ones who have knowledge and know that it's true. They don't want to admit it, but they know that it's true. Because if you know it's false, if you know it's a bunch of baloney, then who cares? Why can't people believe in unicorns? Why does it bother you if they believe in unicorns? Did everyone hear what I'm saying? Why should it bother you if somebody believed in a unicorn or God, let's say? Why would that bother you? It only bothers you because you know it's true and you're not believing in it. Since you're not living up to what you know is true, and that's why the pasuk says, if you don't walk in my ways, and you're disgusted by my ways. When a person doesn't follow what they know is right, they're disgusted by those who follow what's right. Now, I can hear that you can disagree with me. I would love someone to speak up. If you don't want to, I see you guys are a very lively crowd today. But if you don't want to, that's good. But now, why did Rabbi Akiva hate Talmidei Chachamim?
Was he born religious?
No, but he knew what was going on. He was a man who knew what was happening. He knew what there was an idea called Torah. He knew there was an idea of what truth was. He wasn't a stupid person. I'm not saying a person is stupid if they don't know, but I'm saying he was a knowledgeable person about the concepts of the world. He just didn't do it. Yeah?
I think maybe if he just started at the age of 40 and became one of the greatest rabbis, then I guess he was very, very smart. And I guess even when he wasn't like religious, when he did know, he had the knowledge to understand it without being it.
Okay, so he had the knowledge of understanding of what's right and what's wrong before he actually participated with it. In which case he sees Talmidei Chachamim, they're going and doing things, and they're involved. Now, there's two feelings, because it's interesting, we spoke of both over here. Then the one is like this hatred towards that person, and there's no, it's just really sad. Like, I feel sad that I'm not doing it myself. But I don't want to be doing it, therefore, I'm going to just shift it, not from sadness, but the hatred to that person. And then like, and I don't want to live next to them. This woman literally was like, get out of here. There was a campaign in my community where they put like things on people's cars, like, get the Charedim out. I was like, what people, what is wrong with you? Right? First of all, we don't throw rocks at your cars that we didn't set aside. We set them aside for Shabbos. It's not muksa, right? So we got, I'm kidding, by the way, right? So, but, right, loaves of bread. We don't, look, what's the problem here? Okay, in any event, let's get back to my point. My point is like this. Rabbi Akiva became one of the greatest sages ever. Why did he hate Talmidei Chachamim? Because he saw people that were living up to truth and he wasn't living up to truth. That's hard. And you know what's scary? And this does not apply to everyone. This only applies to those who grew up observant. What's sad is that if you grew up observant, just face the facts. You know what truth is. You're wasting your time to run away from it. Because to run away from it, you're just going to have it your whole life bothering you. Until you get clarity that it's baloney, you're going to be living a miserable life. Because it's always going to be like, oh, that's stupid. Instead of, oh, that's stupid, hey, maybe it's beautiful, maybe it's true, maybe it's real, maybe get involved with it. Maybe start doing it. Okay, so my question now...
You see a lot of people doing what you seem to think is the truth in a way that they shouldn't be doing it?
I saw a guy yesterday. I stopped at a red light, and a guy went through a red light. Okay, I had to make a left turn like this, and the way the light works is these cars go this way, and when then they get a red light, then I get a green light. Okay, and this one went, and I saw as ours turned green, this guy went through. Now we all know if somebody goes through a red light, who cares? Unless it's blocking you, right? Then it's like, come on, you know? So when the guy went through the red light, I looked and I saw him like, I can't believe the guy went through the red light. And then I saw it was a cop. It wasn't a police car. It was a regular car, but he was wearing his uniform. I was like, and it's a cop. And it's a cop. Can you believe it? A cop went through a red light. That's ridiculous. You know what I thought about it? Exactly what you're saying now.
What if he was your driver and he's driving?
Great, exactly.
Same thing.
Exactly.
Worse.
No, 100%. So I'm just saying, when I said, and it's a cop, I thought to myself, wow, that's so crazy that I just said that. Because that's what all people that are trying to get away from Judaism say. I saw a religious Jew do something wrong. And he's religious. I'm never going to be religious. That's disgusting. Because Judaism is beautiful. The essence of what Yiddishkeit is amazing. There's some bad people out there. Or there's some people that have done bad things. And therefore we make the association. But the reality is, that's not Judaism. It's not Judaism. What do I tell a 13-year-old? Get help. What do I tell someone after that? I'm like, you have to work these things out. But at the end of the day, that's one. And number two, and this is, I think, right in its own right, even with not Rabbi Akiva, that when we are not doing the right thing, and we see other people doing the right thing, we have a hard time with it. And therefore, we don't want to be around people that are doing the right thing, and we stay away from people that are doing the right thing because it just makes us feel bad. And therefore, we go further and further away. Hence Rabbi Akiva. Until one day, what ended up happening? Now, the question I wanted to ask you in the beginning was, are you Rabbi Akiva? You don't look like him. But what I mean when I say that question, are you Rabbi Akiva, is what Rabbi Akiva ended up doing is he flipped his whole life around. And he ended up becoming one of the greatest that ever lived. And not only in terms of Torah, but in terms of midos, in terms of character traits. As far as I know, there are no stories, at least that came out in terms of all the things. CNN was not around yet. Or just, there's nothing to say. There was no negative that came from it. And any negative that did come from in Judaism, believe me, we speak it out. Right? We're pretty blunt when we say about things that happened that the Jewish people did wrong. We don't really hide these things. If anybody learns Tanakh at all, you'll see it's full of stories of negative things that happen, right? Yet it didn't speak about that. Just another interesting point, if you understand what I'm saying, or if you're familiar with Tanakh, yeah? If you know David HaMelech, if you know Reuven, if you know all the stories that sleeping with his mother and taking a married woman and Moshe Rabbeinu, right? We go story after story after story about all the negative things that happen. Rabbi Akiva, yeah, we say the guy hated Talmid Chacham. We didn't say the reason. Why not? Because that obviously wasn't what was going on over here. So why are we not Rabbi Akiva? And this is what, God willing, what's today? Wednesday. So God willing, tomorrow, for those who are still able to possibly join us at 12 o'clock, we're going to go through what steps Rabbi Akiva took to become Rabbi Akiva. And then I want to try to figure out why we ourselves are not living up to the love of Rabbi Akiva. People, until next time, it's been a pleasure. See you when I see you. Don't take everyone's for their bye.